everybody. What's going on? So I am back. Yes, I am back. And yeah, I need to do my makeup and trying to get this hair together. But anyway, I wanted to share because, yeah, during my workout, actually yesterday, I had started watching this movie. I don't know if anybody knows this movie. It's with Al Pacino. Um, what's his name? Keanu Reeves and Charles Theron. Theron. I hope I said her name. Charlie Theron. I don't know. Her name is kind of unusual. I forgive me if I butchered her name. Great actress. Great actors. I mean, I watched the movie. I've seen the movie like years ago. The movie's called The Devil's Advocate. Now, this movie came out like, oh my gosh, when did this movie? I think it came out like in 98. I think it came out in 98. It came out a long time ago. Um, let's see. The Devil's Advocate. Let's see. How long ago was that? 97. 97. Oh my gosh, that was the year that I came to Germany. Wow. Yeah, I knew it was old, but it's a great movie, guys. It is under horror, but I actually don't see it as horror. I see it as it's a movie that really has you, that really makes you think, honestly. It's a religious horror, but if you take the religion out of it, I mean, like I said, I don't see it as horror or too much to do with religion, honestly. There's just too much of reality in that movie. Um, Let me say that the acting in this movie is wow. It's just absolutely wow. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Al Pacino. Been following him for years, and most of his movies, I'm just like always at odd because he really gets into character with his movies, as well as Keanu Reeves. I mean, he was never like one of my favorite actors, but watching this movie. Okay, when I watched this movie, I was 25. I was really young, and in case you all don't know, I love horror movies, so this was just like one of those movies that I had to see back then, and with such great actors, I'm like, I got to see this. This is good. Well, when I saw it back then, I basically associated the movie with religious horror because basically Al Pacino plays the devil, and Keanu Reeves is like this big. Well, actually, he starts off as a small town lawyer, and he's like a good lawyer. He's able to read people, pick out his jewelry, 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 jury, jury. Yes, jury. And yeah, he basically can get anybody off, you know, um, especially if they committed a horrific crime. He has the capability of winning and reading people, even though he knows that a lot of his clients are wrong or guilty. However, yeah, watching the movie, him and Charlie Desron. I'm gonna just call her Charlie. Charlie. I guess that's her name. I don't know how to pronounce that girl's name. She's also a really good actress. I like her too. I thought the acting in this movie was really good, honestly. Like I said, it's an older movie, but it is a really good movie with a message in there. Okay, so yeah, basically, Keanu Reeves plays this small town lawyer in this little rinky old town in the South. And yeah, he's becoming popular because he is known for winning cases. And so, of course, he had a case where this one teacher had committed an act against a student, and unfortunately, Keanu Reeves was representing this guy, and the girl who this teacher the girl who accused the teacher of committing this wrongful act she was up for trial, or up for questioning. And so Keanu Reeves had to go up there and cross-examine her. And before he did that, the little girl, of course, was telling her story and what had happened, and and how her teacher basically committed an act which was inappropriate. And so she was explaining how she felt, and as she was explaining this, Keanu Reeves happens to take a look over at his client, and he's actually like getting off on this, basically. He can tell that this guy's guilty. And so then there was a brief pause during the trial, and Keanu Reeves goes out and tells his client, look, I can't represent you because you are guilty. I see what you're doing. And so the guy's like, wait a minute, I hired you as my lawyer. You have to go in there and represent me. And it just shows you what the lawyers really have to go through. I don't think I could ever be a lawyer, honestly, because I'm sure they have these type of cases all the time. They know that their client is guilty, but you have to go in there and you have to separate it, business, and take your feelings out of it, because you are hired to do a job. But of course, we're all human, so we have to go in there and if you've been hired to do that job, you have to do it. So, however, he went in there and cross-examined the little girl, and basically was able to get the teacher off because this little girl had some other histories that didn't make her testimony seem, it just seemed like she was doing this to be spiteful to the teacher. So, however, Keanu Reeves won, and so then it shows them all going out and celebrating. And so basically, Charlie, his wife, Charlie, I'm just going to call her Charlie, she's just like all excited. She's up there and she's representing her husband, which is Keanu Reeves, and they go out and celebrate, and she's totally excited. I mean, she's basically his right-hand man. I mean, she helps him, when the cases. I mean, basically her life is obviously surrounded around him and helping him out. And so there was a scene where Keanu Reeves goes into the bathroom, and then this guy approaches him and says, look, we've been following you. I have some people higher up who are interested in you. They live in New York, and they want you to come and represent them, and da-da-da-da. And so at first he's just like, yeah, what am I going to do up in New York? And so, the guy's like, look, this can change your lifestyle, and then he shows them this big check to let him know that, look, this is serious. And so, of course, what do you think he's going to do? Because this is his life, this is, he wants to get paid. So, and of course, his wife is all excited. So he decides to take the trip to New York with his wife and to go and pursue a higher career and perhaps become a part of this law firm. And so he had to take on a case, another weird case where this guy was practicing voodoo, and his way of practicing voodoo involved animal torture. And so it was Keanu Reeves' job to represent this guy and basically get him off and let it be known that what he's doing isn't animal torture, that he's taking these animals out, but he's also eating them. He's not just using them as like a sacrifice. So yeah, basically he gets this guy off, even though this guy is guilty and this guy is indeed using his animals as a sacrifice for his voodooism, whatever. So, okay, so where am I going with this? I'm not going to tell you the whole story. The whole movie. The movie is really good. Really, trust me, guys. Watch the movie. It's good. So, however, Keanu Reeves is like an immaculate lawyer. I mean, he is good and just knows his job. And so people have taken notice. One of the guys who is played by Al Pacino owns this major law firm. I'm like the biggest in New York, and he represents all the biggest people who live in New York who have a lot of money and pay a lot of money to have the best lawyers to get them off like crazy cases, whether it be, you know, taking somebody out or whatever. So, so this guy however, takes, which is Al Pacino, he takes a liking to, Al Pacino. Al Pacino takes a liking to Keanu Reeves. I hope I'm explaining this right, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not the best storyteller. You must see this movie. It's a really good movie. Trust me. So I try to explain it as best as I can, and hopefully you can follow me and see where I'm going with this. However, so basically, you know, Keanu Reeves wants to take this guy on because this guy's, like I said, he is really good in his game. He knows what he's doing, and he wants this, you know, Keanu Reeves to be a part of his law firm and take on the biggest cases. And so in the process, you know, of course, his wife is up there. You know, she gets introduced to some new ladies whose husbands are also a part of the law firm. And so, you know, Charlie takes I wouldn't say take a liking to the ladies, but, you know, she's, you know, hanging out with them. And so, you know, Charlie starts to notice that her husband is gone often, which is Keanu Reeves, because of course he's working on these crazy cases. And so, you know, he has to use a lot of his time with researching, and, you know how it is. I mean, I've never been with a lawyer, but I can just imagine it's just a lot entailed and involved. It's a lot of work, a lot of research, knowing your business, knowing the laws, and etc. So she's noticing that, you know, it's not like it used to be. She's not, you know, they're no longer in this small town. She notices that she has nothing more to do. She doesn't know what to do with herself. She's got all this free time. You know, the lifestyle has changed. You know, this guy's making a lot of money now, and so she doesn't know what to do. So she's hanging out with these ladies, and so she's hanging out with her husband's colleagues' wives. And so so she's like asking them, guys, you know, how do you do this? You know, your husband is no longer around. What do you guys do? And so they're like, yes, I mean, what else can I do but spend the money? You know, I'm at home. I got all this free time, which I think is sending a bad message, because even if you know, have a husband or a partner who's earning a lot of money and you decide to, I mean, obviously none of these women had kids. It didn't seem like they had any kids. So if you have kids, then of course you would be the one taking care of the kids. Other than that, yeah, okay, their excuses. Well, we just go out shopping and we, live our life up in this luxury, which is also not bad either. But in one sense, after a while, that also gets old and boring. So, excuse me. Every time I start talking a lot, my voice starts to go out. Kind of sucks. And so Charlie is obviously having a bit of a problem with the situation because she doesn't see her husband so much anymore. And she does not like this lifestyle. She doesn't want to be out there spending money. She wants to be, I guess, a part of her husband and, doing what they did before. But her husband doesn't need her anymore because, of course, he's now part of a law firm. And he's got secretaries and everybody else who helps him to do everything. So she doesn't have a job anymore. And so as the movie progressed, you see her slowly starting to lose her mind because she doesn't know what to do. She starts to hallucinate and see like these devil figures, the women who she's hanging out with, now they're looking like devils to her because, there's something devilish going on here. This is something not right because, this woman is, like I said, she's basically starting to lose her mind. She has no life and she's starting to put together their beautiful apartment and she doesn't see her husband anymore. So she's losing herself. And so, she's telling her husband, well, let's try to make a baby, so I can fill up my time and have something to do. Which I think, okay, me standing out now that I'm older and I'm standing back, I think the big problem was when she entered into the relationship, it seemed as though she didn't have a life in the very beginning. She surrounded her whole life around her husband, and which is totally fine, but I definitely believe that you have to have your own life. You guys should be coming as two wholes and not two halves, waiting to, fulfill the other, to try to complete one another, if you know what I mean. So I think that was like the big problem. And so when she saw that her husband didn't need her anymore, then she felt like inadequate, like she didn't know what to do, she was lost. Instead of going out there and trying to figure out what she likes and trying to get to know herself, which I see it as a blessing because if you have that type of time, then yeah, you can, instead of sitting around and just, fixing up the place, then why not invest that time that you have and, and try to build yourself up by learning, by reading, by, having hobbies, hobbies is very important. And having, knowing what you like, knowing yourself. So I think that was the biggest problem. And so, yeah, basically she was falling apart. Of course, they tried to tie religion into it because, she's like, there's something very wrong here. I'm seeing devils, and, you don't take the time out for me anymore. You're more concentrated in your work, which is totally fine because, if if he's going to have that type of lifestyle, there is some type of sacrifice involved, if you guys follow me. So, however, yeah, basically she's really losing it. And in the beginning, before Keanu Reeves took on this job, Al Pacino had the conversation with him, look, if you take this job on, it's going to require you to give it your all. You're going to be under pressure. How are you going to be able to react under pressure? So I found that interesting because he was under a lot of pressure. First of all, he's, this guy is a good guy, but he has this drive of wanting to win his court cases, of course, because he's a lawyer. And unfortunately, the cases that he was receiving, they weren't all good. Most of the people he was representing were all guilty, but they were paying such an immaculate amount of money, he had to go in there and do his job. Regardless, he had to keep his feelings out of it. So in the process of doing that, going against his morals, which I believe when you become a lawyer, I think the morals somehow go out of the door. It depends on what's more important, representing people and really finding justice, or representing people winning the case and climbing the ladder. So it depends on him and what he really wanted. However, I hope you guys are following me. Sometimes I tend to ramble with so many things going on. I watched this movie, and so I'm like trying to work it out. I know that I watched the movie, like I said, 20 years ago, but I see it different now because I'm older. I've been married, kids, so that, you tend to look at things differently now, right? So, however, like I said, you see his wife falling apart. I mean, she is literally falling apart. It is so bad like I said, she's hallucinating. She's going to the party. If he decides to take her out, she's already going in the attitude like, don't leave me alone. I can't be by myself. And I just see her as a very dependent person, almost a little bit narcissistic, if that makes any sense, because it seems like, she sees that her husband is obviously moving up. Instead of supporting, she's falling into herself. She's falling apart because she doesn't have any more this person who she could, I guess, care for, and he cared for her, and he gave her a meaning, if that makes any sense. And so now that he's gone off and he's starting to rise, this is when she starts to fall apart, which I think is very selfish. And so, however, yeah, so they go to this event, and that was the first party that Keanu Reeves takes his wife Charlie to. And so he's going off and he's mingling with the people. He's networking, which is, of course, what you do when you go to these events. You want to network and just, get your name out there and talk to people. And yeah. And so in the process, as he's doing that, Al Pacino decides to have a talk with Keanu Reeves' wife. And so, of course, he's telling her how beautiful she is, and then he throws out this passive-aggressive compliment, which, you could tell, Al Pacino's like a big narcissist, but what do you expect? He's the devil, so it fits. So basically, he's complimenting Charlie on her looks, and but in the same token, he turns around and, puts her down and says, you're pretty, and your hair is gorgeous, but you would be so much prettier if you would cut your hair, show your neck. This hairstyle just doesn't fit, and of course because she doesn't have any life, and it's obvious that she has zero self-esteem. She's like, oh really? She's perfect for a narc person, because she, the self-esteem isn't there, and that's how they get you. They compliment you, but on the other hand, put you down. So, like I said, I don't see it as a double thing, because I see it as like, ooh, this is something that can happen, like, right? And so, he's making her feel good. He's talking to her. He's, showing her some attention. And so, in the meantime, you know, Keanu Reeves is off and talking to, you know, he's mingling, and then he meets this other woman who's also part of the law firm, beautiful, and somehow they meet out on the balcony, and they tend to, they tend to exchange, I don't know, that's not the word I want to use. They have a nice little conversation, short conversation, and you can tell that Keanu Reeves is very attracted to this woman, as he should be, because she's beautiful. She seems to be intelligent, and they have something in common. So, which is something that can happen. So, however, he's complimenting her, and so then he goes back off and he mingles with other people. And in the meantime, Charlie starts to go into a panic because she's like, "Where is my husband? You know, I need to find my husband. He knows that I don't like to be left alone." She's starting to freak out, and and it's so bad that she winds up going home without him because she couldn't find him. I mean, Keanu just left her, but he's having the time of his life, I guess. And so, he gets home pretty late, and so when he gets home, his wife is, of course, furious because she's like, "Where did you go? You knew that I don't like to be left alone, da-da-da." And so he's like, "I apologize, but you know that I'm going there. I have to, it's my job. I got to go there and I got to do my networking and da-da-da." And so she was like, "Yeah, but you left me and blah, blah, blah." And so already you see that, okay, you know where this is going. She's going to hold him back because she has no life. She has no hobbies. She's got all this money to spend now and doesn't know what to do with herself. I mean, what is wrong with that lady? Man, if that was me, I would be out on the town. I would be taking trips. I would be like, "All right, see you later, alligator. Just call me up when you're ready." I'm different. However, so, to make a long story short, Keanu Reeves, the pressure becomes more and more because it gets to the point where his wife is so delusional and so crazy that she gets admitted into a psychiatric ward because she just can't take it anymore. She's seeing things and she's going crazy. And so Keanu Reeves starts to blame himself because he's not taking care of his wife. And so there was a scene where Al Pacino says, "Look, I know this case that I got you on right now, which happened to be a horrific crime that one of his clients had committed." And so, Al Pacino was like, "Look, I can understand if, I see that your wife is obviously having some issues, if you want to, I could take you off this case, go ahead and take care of your wife." And so Keanu was like, "No, I don't want to go off this case because if I go off of this case, I'm going to somehow despise my wife because, I had to focus my attention on her, and I really want to win this case," because for him it was about really winning. And I mean, he's one of those persons, I got to win. If it's against his morals or not, I want to win. I want to get to the top. I want to win, and so he was like, "Okay, then I'll leave you on the case." That's what Al Pacino says. "I'll leave you on the case. Go ahead and do what you got to do. I'll provide you all the, I'll provide you everything what I can provide you so that you can, win this case." And so, his wife goes off and she does the unthinkable and takes herself out in the hospital. And so, of course, Keanu Reeves is having a major breakdown, and he's just like, "Oh my goodness, it's my fault, that I didn't take care of my wife. So, a very important part is of this movie is his mother, Keanu Reeves' mother. Okay, she's not a very big part, but she's the key to, how Keanu Reeves came about. So basically, she is like this really religious woman, and she's in, she grew her son up in this little town and grew him up very religious, like, to know all the Bible verses and etc. And so she wasn't really happy, when Kiana and his wife decided to go to New York to take on this, job in New York. And so when she had found out that Keanu Reeves' wife was pretty, acting sickly, she was also at the psychiatric ward, and she decided to tell Kiana, because he didn't know, Kiana never knew his father, he only knew the mother. And so she decides to, in that moment, to tell her son, like, look, I know I didn't tell you, I haven't been honest, but your father is, and he's just like, at first he didn't want to hear, and then after his wife decides to take himself out, he's wondering, okay, who is my father? Why are you telling me now? We're in New York. What happened? So then she goes back and she tells him, look, I came to New York when I was a young girl. I met this guy and he took an interest in me, and he worked as a waiter, and we had one night together, and that's how you came about. And basically, the guy who you're working for at this law firm happens to be your father. And so she was just like, this guy is, he is like the devil, basically. And so, Keanu's like having this major meltdown, and he's just like, I can't believe it, why didn't you tell me, and da-da-da. And so later he goes back and he confronts, Al Pacino about his new discovery, and that he knows that he is the father, that he is his father, and asks, Al Pacino, okay, what do you want from me now? Why did you choose me? And, why did you give me all this? And, everything that has happened up to now, it's your fault. You've been watching me, and you knew that I was going to, fall for this stuff, and you knew the condition of my wife. And so Al Pacino, of course, Al Pacino, he's throwing in his comments. I mean, that guy is amazing. I love this guy's acting style, because you really see him go into his character. I mean, he really puts his all into it. But not only Al Pacino, but also Reeves as well. I mean, they're great actors, really. But Al Pacino is definitely on another level, because like I said, this guy goes, I mean, when he was up there hollering and, calling them, pointing out everything, I saw the Scarface come out in him, because he really got into character there. I mean, that was the movie that really put him on the map, because, I mean, this guy's good. He's just so believable. However, so he's explaining to Kiana that, because Kiana's like, it's your fault that all this happened. You're the devil, and, you made me do it. You put all these, barriers in my way to distract me, to get me to do the things and not really take care of what I really loved, which was my wife. And so Keanu, Al Pacino made a point, which I thought was very interesting, which makes a lot of sense, which can apply to our everyday life, is, look, I didn't tell you to do anything. These were ideas that were already in your head. You already had that drive of wanting to win. So you were the one who decided to prioritize your job before your wife, or job before family, which is, I mean, that's something what we do on a daily basis, right? We prioritize our our job or what we have to do instead of really, really concentrating on the family. We can't, right? We can't concentrate because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do the things that we're able to do. Whether, there is some type of sacrifice involved. So, he was like, when your wife was, going through her time, this is what Al Pacino said, when she was having a breakdown, I told you that you can go home and take care of your wife. But it was you who decided to continue on and pursue and wanted to win, because it was you who said, if I don't do this, I'm going to despise my wife because, she took that from me, which in one sense, he's right. I mean, I personally, like I said, if you take the religion and all the hallucinations out of it, I saw her as a very insecure, dependent, perhaps even narcissistic wife who had no life, and she saw her partner rising, and so that was just basically too much because it took the attention off of her, which is what a lot of narcissistic people do. They don't want you to really grow. They want you to grow, but as long as you keep the focus on them, if that makes any sense. So that's exactly what she did. I mean, she basically acted a fool, because she just could not find herself. She could not mingle with the ladies. It's okay if that's not her cup of tea, fine. But she couldn't get out there. She couldn't educate herself. I know, guys, this is a movie. I know that. But it applies to everyday life. It applies to, I see this happen in a lot of relationships. Yeah, I mean, it's something that goes on and happens daily, when somebody starts to rise or starts to level up, either your friends will act up or your spouse or, whomever, which was in your life. Either they're going to help you to elevate yourself or they're going to pull you down, So I found that to be very interesting because, he was like, you can't, Al Pacino's point was, yeah, I may be the devil, but I didn't put those temptations in you. It was you. It was basically the things that you wanted to have in life. You decided to take this route. And so, what's my point? Yeah, it just had me thinking because it's just like, wow. Oftentimes we try to blame maybe situations on maybe religious purposes, or maybe we might be like, oh, the devil made me do it, or what can I say? I don't know. Sometimes we try to blame other people for our mistakes when in actuality it's actually us. It's what we really want to have. And where am I going with this? I know I'm rambling. My head is like going. I just thought the movie was good, guys. I just have to say that it's a good movie. Really, 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 it's really good. Because, like I said, it has you thinking. Anywho. We're responsible for everything that we do. We must take, how can I say, we have to take responsibility in the choices that we make. And so in this case, Keanu Reeves' choice as a lawyer, he wanted to climb, he wanted to get to the top. Unfortunately, it involves sacrifice. What was the sacrifice? He had to spend a lot of time working on the cases, and then unfortunately his partner fell apart because she had no life, and she was, to me, like I said, narcissistic. And then there's his mother who also didn't have a life because her life was basically, she involved her whole life around the church. And so of course, she's like, it's the devil, this guy has been after you, and da-da-da. But however, yeah, that's it. I just wanted to say we have to take responsibility for our actions. We can't really blame anybody for the things that we do because what we do is, it's our priority. We tend to prioritize what's most important for us, whether it be okay, I want to earn a lot of money. So if I want to earn a lot of money, I do have to sacrifice, I won't have that much time. I'm going to have to do this and do that, or I decide to make, family my priority. I won't work as much, but then we're probably going to be unhappy because we're not going to be able to do the things that we want to do because we don't have no money, which was also a point in the movie. They had a lot of bills, early on because, he was a small time lawyer. He wasn't making any money in this small town, where he was representing, clients. It was no big money involved. The money came when he moved to New York. He got on bigger cases. They were able to have a lavish lifestyle. The wife, like I said, couldn't handle it because, like I said, she had no lifestyle. Like I said, if it would have been me, it would have been something totally different because I would have been out there I would have been living it up. But of course, that's me. And does that make me a bad person? No, it doesn't. That doesn't make anybody a bad person. It's called making sure you have a lifestyle. So if you decide to go into a relationship, or if you're currently in a relationship, it is very important that you have a life, that you find yourself. What do you like to do? Whatever you like to do. I mean, I believe I'm such a believer that we can always enhance ourselves in learning wise. There's always something new to learn, whether it be a new language or traveling, maybe working on a business, doing something. If you have that freedom or pleasure to do so, work on yourself. Do something that you haven't done before. Take risks. You should never rely 100% on a person because people do change. People grow. That the interests start to move around, and so that's why it's important to have a life. But however, I know I'm rambling, guys. I hope you guys see where I'm going in this movie. I see it, like I said, I had to take the religious horror part out of it because in the end, Al Pacino's goal was to create a new Antichrist. He wanted Keanu Reeves to take over his law firm. I know I'm spilling all the beans, but however, and the woman who Keanu Reeves had fancied, who was also a lawyer and very beautiful, happened to be his half sister because apparently Al Pacino was out there. He's created many kids, and it came down to this woman and Keanu Reeves, who was the best. And so Keanu Reeves asked the question, and well, how come you chose law? And so he was like, why not? Because law is, you need law and order to get to the top, And so I don't know. However, it's a really good movie. Unfortunately, Keanu Reeves winds up taking himself out because then he starts to see, this isn't me. I don't want this lifestyle. I have morals. I can't represent these people knowing what they did. I lost the love of my life, and this is not the way I'm going to go, and I'm not going to be a part of your act. And of course, Keanu Reeves is like, no. And so, like I said, he takes himself out. And then the movie goes back to the beginning. And then it shows this scene where Keanu Reeves is in the bathroom. And this was just basically a vision of his. Keanu Reeves, the whole setting is back into the court where he had won that first case, with the teacher and the student. And so instead of representing this guy, he decides to pull out of the case and decides to, I know there's a word for it. He decides to, he says that he doesn't want to represent this client because it's just against his morals and he can't do it. And so everybody's like having a freaking frenzy. And then at the end, there was a reporter and he's like, oh my gosh, you know, what you did was absolutely crazy, you know, and basically it just takes it all back to the beginning. And this reporter happens to be Al Pacino in disguise. He's a devil because he's like, you know, he tells Keanu Reeves, what you did was just amazing, that, you know, you decide to, you know, be honest and not take on this guy, even though you knew this guy was empty. So this is going to be big. And so then you saw him winking, and then, you know, part of his face is turning into Al Pacino. So he's the devil. So basically, my point is he's going to find a reason to, to make what he's turned good into something bad, you know? So I don't know. I know I'm probably all over the place with this movie, but however, it's a good movie. So if you get a chance to see it, check it out. It's really good. Like I said, the acting is absolutely amazing. And yes, what time is it? Ooh, I gotta hurry up. Gotta go run out and pick up my child soon. And I'm not even finished with my makeup. Ooh. I know I'm rambling, but yeah, the movie's called The Devil Advocate. I will place the title at the in the comments. Yes, yes. If you happen to like the video and you understood what the point where I was going in this movie, like I said, I know I'm rambling. Sometimes when I watch movies, I have to work it out, or if I watch something that's really good and it gets me thinking, because I do a lot of thinking, and I think there's a psychology in everything that we watch and see and do. Sometimes my brain is just running and running in sometimes in 3 different languages. So sometimes the words are missing in English. I've been away from America for so long, guys. Ooh. Sometimes I'm thinking already in German and sometimes even Spanish. So forgive me, guys. I hope you were able to understand and somewhat see a point. But if you've seen the movie, drop a comment below. I would love to hear your intake on the movie, and if you found the movie cool and interesting. What do you think about Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino and their acting, and Charlie Theron? I hope I pronounced her name right. She was so pretty back then. Wow, so young. I mean, we were all young back then. Yes. Anyway, guys, yeah, give it a thumbs up, and if you liked it, and subscribe. I would love to have you as yeah, a person who follows me and listens to me, and yeah, I like to interact. So like I said, drop a comment below, and yeah, till next time, I'm gonna finish my makeup, guys. See you later. Bye.